We're almost there, folks. We are, in fact, live. Everybody, welcome and thank you to coming back to the Canadian Bro Show, the first iteration of all things Canadian, certainly at least most things Canadian, with Pauly and Johnny. And today we're, before we go into the show, we're really happy to say that the numbers have increased. We're up about 5 to 7%. So thank you very much for all of you that's taken valuable time to watch some of our shows. And this is episode 29, and this is an episode close to my heart. Not because it's warming of the heart, but it's a genre that everybody seems fascinated by. And yet, yeah, not exactly. This is not the most, but there are some uplifting sub-stories within the movies. Johnny and Pauly, episode 29, are going to be Pauly and Johnny's cinema film review. And we're going to be focusing on the very best apocalypse, doomsday, end of the world.
The sky is falling.
Movies. There's a lot of ways that people have been creative in trying to end the planet. Of course, there's really only a few that could do it, but we're going to try to make it entertaining and concise. And there's some really good films here. And if you haven't seen them, some are really, really dark, and some are on the lighter side, and some are in the middle. So we want you to enjoy it. And I'm just going to lower this music, and then allow our audience to, show their appreciation.
Our adoring fans.
Yes, we have all but two of us, and those are us right now. We're not live. We're actually recording. It will be live in the next day or so. But in the meantime, Johnny, how are things in Vancouver? What is going on in the West Coast?
Well, I had a bit of a hiccup this week, which I hope has been resolved. Basically, I seriously needed to clean up my place. I had to remove my chin-up bar. Because it caused some structural damage to the frame. And
did you just tell them that the building's 80 years old? Maybe the structural damage?
No, I took down the chin-up bar. I complied with their demands because I don't want to get evicted.
No, of course
not.
not.
And there are some other issues. The way I live, the way I live, it's much closer to Oscar Madison than Felix Unger. But
I would say, when's the last time you watched an episode of The Odd Couple?
Not since we were kids, but I used to
right.
watch it.
Their apartment was meticulous, of course, not because of Oscar.
Because of Felix.
But yes. And the pictures that I've seen of your place on your award-winning YouTube channel, where you're half naked and drunk most of the time, and you've got exceptional numbers, and I'm just having fun.
33,000.
Dude, that's incredible. Why don't you just weave some of that magic over in the Canadian Bro Show? You know what I'm saying?
You can take it, bro, as much as you want.
I've taken a lot more and a lot worse in this life, and I'm not really interested in taking anything more. But to build this channel and to eventually be monetized and to grow it to the point where somebody has to offer us, a satellite show, maybe even a YouTube show.
The movie.
Right.
Right.
So, what's going on? Everything's okay with work?
Yeah. How about you? What, anything earth shattering?
No, just really busy. Just really busy between the 3 iterations of the Canadian Bro Show and trying to get out 2-3 episodes per week. And then, my, hoop junkie, addiction, and my fantasy basketball. I have 8 teams, and then, real estate. I have a new listing that's, in Vernon, up at Silver Star Mountain Resort. It's just beautiful up there.
Now, when you say new listing, what exactly does that mean?
Well, it means that somebody wants to hire my brand and my brokerage to help facilitate the sale of their investment property on the mountain.
Gotcha.
Pretty straightforward. And I hang my license on a brokerage. It's called Orca Realty. It's buy, sell, rent. And that'll be the 3rd iteration. But in the meantime, let's get back to the show. I'm good. I just drove back from Silver Star. We did an open house today and yesterday, and I literally got in 15 minutes ago, so I'm ready to go. This is a genre that I absolutely love and very much excited about it. Now, before we get into this is episode 29. It's the best apocalypse movies of all time. We can call that End of the World. We can call that Doom. We can call that whatever you want to call it. It is a fascinating genre. There are really a lot of great, great movies. And I must warn people, some of these are very dark.
Oh, they are. Yeah, one on my list is probably the
Well,
dark.
I can almost guess what that is, but
Yeah,
my the one that I have is probably, believe it or not, even darker than yours. I'm serious. It's I
I
tried to
pretty
watch it
watched
the other
them
night, and I'm going to try to watch it the rest of it today, but it was so
week.
disturbing a little bit,
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah,
It was just really well done, and it hits hard.
yeah.
Anyways, um,
Comfort.
and in doing that, I believe in episode 28 you went first. So if you don't mind, Johnny, I'm going to go first.
Be my guest.
Thank you. And
Okay.
my favorite of all of these films, and I have probably 10 favorites. That's how much I love this genre. But when I think of this genre and I think about the movie that I'm going to talk about, I think it's the best of the entire group, for the most part.
Mm.
Um, and it's from Danny Boyle, the Scottish director, and Alex Garland, who wrote 28 Days Later,
Mm.
with the now, rock star Cillian Murphy, who is the lead in this, who plays a bicycle courier. So I'll just give you a break. Have you seen this movie?
Oh yeah, yeah. We talked about it before. They're
I
making a
know we
whole.
mentioned it in the horror
Yeah,
genre that we talked about, but this is apocalyptic, and it is basically, it's called the Rage Virus.
yeah. It's really great.
And then here's the little blurb from IMDb. A group of misguided animal rights activists managed to break into a secured government facility, and
Yeah.
free a caged chimp infected with the rage virus. Oh, it's just incredible. The opening scene is so incredible. And what's really cool about, before I go any further, Danny Boy filmed this with a digital camera and used an iPhone camera as well, and put it all together. And it's got that real shaky cam, and it's just a sense of urgency. And then when London bike courier Jim, Cillian Murphy, wakes up from a coma a month after the rage virus, he finds the city all but deserted, on the run from the zombie-like victims of the rage. Jim stumbles onto a group of survivors, including Selena, Naomi Campbell, who's excellent, and cab driver Frank, Brendan Gleeson, who's excellent always, and joins them on a perilous journey to what hopes to be safety in a world gone mad
Mm.
by the rage virus.
Yeah, it's a
It,
super intense movie, and the sequel is great too.
well, actually, the sequel's great. It didn't make my list, although, because there's just so many good ones, but I like it as well. But this one's special. They had Danny Boyle filmed 3 different endings and allowed us to decide where the story wants to go. Now, before we get into anything more in your next pick, Johnny,
Right.
Danny Boyle and Alex Garland have got back together again, and they filmed 2 more episodes of 28 years later
Mm.
to fill out the trilogy of this. And I'm really, to be able to have Danny Boyle and Alex Garland back and bang out 2 films.
I hope they do. I hope they do 28 centuries later, and then we can see zombies in flying cars with laser beams.
Oh my God, dude! Let's just wait for these. The
Please
first
tell
of these
zombies.
2 films are coming up this summer. Anyways,
Now let's go.
if anyone hasn't seen this movie, it's an absolute classic. It's a masterpiece. It's pure, unadulterated. It's a love story. It's a horror story. It's a survival story. It's a rage virus story. It just encompasses so much, and it's exceptionally well done. If there was a higher rating than a 10 out of 10, I'd give it 11.
Infinity out of 10.
I'm
Plus
telling you.
infinity plus 1.
Yeah.
All right, great choice. Okay, my
Thank
first
you.
choice is a very obscure film from 1970
Wow.
that is probably on YouTube. We've mentioned it briefly on, I think, the science fiction podcast, but this is one of my all-time favorite movies that I watched every time it came on TV when I was a kid. Colossus: The Forbin Project, directed by Joseph Sargent. And the movie is about an advanced American defense system named Colossus. This is basically AI in its infancy. becoming sentient, the supercomputer, after being handed full control voluntarily, not such a great idea. Colossus's draconian logic expands on its original nuclear defense directives to assume total control of the world and end all warfare for the good of humankind, despite its creators to stop it. So basically, anytime someone tries to defy Colossus, it threatens to blow up a city with a nuclear weapon. And it joins forces with another supercomputer in Russia named Guardian. And this is just a real warning, kind of a social warning type of film. And it ends on kind of a cliffhanger. It's too bad that they never made a sequel. And so that's my first choice, Colossus, the Forbin Project.
Well, I think you got me for the first time on this show. I do not remember ever seeing this particular film.
Mm-hmm. Based on the science fiction novel Colossus by Dennis Feltham Jones. And
okay.
It was made in 1970
all right.
by Universal.
You know, obscurity is a good thing because there's a lot of geeks out there, film geeks like us, that might have seen it and agree with you. And then there's a lot like me that haven't seen it and you know, might put it on the list. Highly unlikely.
Very in film in this day and age, I feel.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, it might be worth the look. I'm going to go to... So this is not in any particular order, although I'm tempted to do what everybody else does in YouTube, and that is, well, you know what? I'm going to start off with the esoteric ones and the ones that are okay, pretty good, you know, top 10, whatever. And then I'm going to work my way up to the best ones, and I'm going to hit you up with my best, just to keep everybody watching, because apparently that's really important. And of course, we understand that. But honestly, the way Johnny and I do our film reviews, we allow each other to have our own subjective interpretation and just go with it. And doesn't matter where it's, and by the way, 28 Days Later, my first is my favorite, but maybe it goes downhill from here. I doubt it. But the next movie I have, not a lot of people talk about. And for me, I've probably seen it now, and this is what I do. I've seen it at least a dozen times. And only because it's so well done. It's an end of the world apocalyptic, and the writing, the acting, the film. I had no idea what was going on halfway through the film. And then, of course, I'm a huge Denzel Washington fan. I'm going to go with The Book of Eli. Have you seen The Book of Eli?
No, I'm aware of this movie, but it escaped my attention.
Well, I mean,
I'm sorry.
No, it's you should say sorry to Denzel. Yeah, you should give up Denzel.
Other movies, one of the finest actors alive.
He's just one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
So the movie, I don't want to do a spoiler word, but it opens in one of the most the tension and the cinematography, the photography, and how they set it up was absolutely brilliant, and it sets the whole movie up. And I won't tell you what it is, but this is about a single, well, it's more than a single man. It's the remainder of the world, and all trying to survive when the apocalypse has wiped out humanity and civilization, and everybody's just trying to get by. And much like Mad Max, it's run by gangs and marauders and murderers and psychopaths. And it's a really intriguing story. And there's a little bit of a religion. There's a little bit of love, a lot of hate, a lot of violence. And Denzel is just on top of his game. 30 years after the war turned the world into a wasteland, a lone warrior named Eli marches across the ruined landscape, carrying hope for humanity's redemption. Only one other man understands the power of what Eli carries and is determined to take it for himself. Though Eli prefers peace, of course, and he must risk death to protect his precious cargo, to fulfill his destiny, to help restore mankind.
You should narrate movie trailers. You're good at that. You really know how to sell stuff.
Well, I appreciate that. You've mentioned a few times before. This is in 2010. I mean, it's hard to believe it's been 15 years since this movie was released. January 15th, so Capricorn, that was my birthday week. My birthday month now. At 60, I celebrate my birthday for an entire month, not one day. And so, you know, Johnny.
I know what the book is, by the way, the book and the title, and it's a real surprise. I won't spoil it.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. All right.
I think
Well,
I read a review and I heard it's an excellent film. Okay, my next movie, Dollars to Donuts. It's the one that we were referring to earlier. I guess we'll see. This one is called Threads. It was made in 1984, produced by the BBC, written by Barry Hines, and directed and produced by Mick Jackson. A dramatic account of nuclear war and its effects in Britain, specifically on the city of Sheffield in northern England. The plot centers on two families as a confrontation between the United States and the Soviet Union erupts. As the nuclear exchange between NATO and the Warsaw Pact begins, the film depicts the medical, economic, social, and environmental consequences of nuclear war. This is probably the darkest and bleakest and saddest movie ever made. I watched it on the Internet Archive. Are you familiar with that website? It's like
yes,
another YouTube kind of.
yes, and I've seen this.
Yeah, and
It's
it is
excellent.
absolutely devastating, and it's almost like a documentary. Like a
Well, it's
documentary.
it's low budget and it's from the
Yeah,
UK and
in a
it's
good way.
like
That's what
yeah,
makes it so raw and unrelenting.
but it is very dark and the message is obviously, pretty serious stuff.
Yeah,
And that's sort of the theme about apocalyptic and doomsday, end of the world sort of movies. And that was a good pick. I
yeah,
actually, in doing my research, I haven't seen that for a very long time because I think it was made in the late 70s, early 80s. I
yeah.
don't know. It's been a while.
1984.
Right. There we go. It's been a while, but it's a great pick. And
Yeah.
and two out of the box, esoteric, old school. That's what I
Mhm.
love about you, Johnny. You just never know what you're gonna get.
Likewise,
You're like a box of
I'm like a
chocolates, and
box of chocolates.
you just hope that most of the chocolates, if not all of them, are really good.
I'll take the onion
Um,
and garlic.
God. Okay.
For
Well,
such a thing
I'll
exists.
take anything that's got dark chocolate and caramel. How's
Oh,
that?
same here. Okay, you're up, Will.
Um,
Okay.
well, I mean, this is where it gets really interesting because I just love all of these, but I have to go back to a film that I saw in the 70s at home watching popcorn. I went to the library, tried to find out who the writer was. And the movie, the original movie that I saw on TV, um, on my 11-inch or 10-inch RCA black and white TV with 4 channels, was called Mega Man.
Oh, it's on my list.
Well, just wait. Hear me out. Hear me out. I had a feeling it would. I'm not. That's why I'm not doing a Mega Man. A Mega Man. I'll let Johnny talk about it later. But this movie was a more modern rendition of a Mega Man, which was made in the mid '70s by Charlton Heston. I'll just say, who at the time Charlton Heston was the #1 actor in the world.
Mm.
And I won't mention any other films because maybe one of his other films might be on your list as well. But this movie is with Will Smith, and it's called I Am Legend. And have you seen I Am Legend?
Oh yeah, yeah. I saw it in the theater. Loved it. Great dog.
Excellent.
Best dog
Yeah.
ever.
Best what? Oh yeah.
Best
Oh,
dog.
I mean, and so I mean, it was made in 2007, and it's an American post-apocalyptic action thriller directed by Francis Lawrence and screenplay by Akiva Goldsman.
Mm.
And Will Smith, of course, is the lead. Robert Neville, a scientist, is a survivor of a man-made plague that transforms humans into mutants. He wanders alone, or so he thinks, through New York City, calling out for any other possible survivors. The world looks bleak. He hasn't seen anybody in over a year, and works on
Very lonely
finding a cure for the plague using his own immune blood. Neville, Dr. Neville, knows he is badly outnumbered. And they don't say what he's outnumbered, but I'll tell you in a sec. And the odds are against him. The infected wait for him to make a mistake that will deliver Neville into their ferocious hands. Just a phenomenal opening scene.
Oh yeah.
He's driving a zooped up American car, and there's no one there. The only thing that's alive are deer and bears and coyotes
Right,
and
wild
animals.
animals, yeah.
Everything's overgrown. This virus wiped out everybody.
Mm.
They thought, the premise of this is they thought that they found the perfect cure for this virus, and it was 100% successful. And then the movie opens. I'll just leave it at that. It's an incredible film. It's totally different from Mega Man, which it was drawn from. The director finally released a director's cut. They released the original one. They just cut the hell out of it at 90 minutes. It was a total
Oh,
joke.
right.
And so they added like 28 minutes, 30 minutes of director that fills in a lot of the holes, and I like it a lot better. But it's a really moving piece, and the love for his dog and loneliness and trying to survive against these beasts, and also trying to, he's the only person, of course, that has a complete, setup in his mansion that is totally secured. If you haven't seen this film, please go watch I Am Legend and see the director's extended cut. Johnny, it's so nice to hear that you actually went to the theater and saw it.
Oh yeah, based on the novel by Richard Matheson, who
Yep.
wrote a lot of Twilight Zone episodes back in the day.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
very good. My next choice is a movie that I think we might have mentioned briefly, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, going
Oh my,
back to 1970, directed
yeah.
by Ted Post, written by Paul Dean, the first sequel to the 1968 Planet of the Apes, starring James Franciscus, Kim Hunter, Maurice Evans. Roddy McDowall apparently was making another movie at the time, so that's the only Apes movie that he doesn't appear in. Franciscus plays American astronaut Brent, who's on a search.
What film? What year was this?
1970.
Yeah, he was
And
probably doing Clockwork Orange at the time.
most likely. And anyway, he's on a rescue mission. He winds up going through that same darn time warp that Charlton Heston went through in the first movie, and discovers that Earth in the future, spoiler warning, is ruled by apes. The first half of this movie is kind of a lame rehash of the first movie, but then it goes into this wild and weird and wacky a side turn where Brent encounters these mutants, the leader of which is played by Victor Bono. And they have like these masks that make them look human, but then they take off the masks, and we discover that they're horribly scarred by radiation. And they actually have telepathic powers. They have the
Yeah.
power to control people's minds. And they actually force Brent and Taylor, Charlton Heston returns briefly at the end as Taylor, they force them to fight each other. And they're able to create illusions. So the army of apes, they're on their way to invade this civilization of telepathic mutants, and so they create these like wild images to try and stop them. Of course, it doesn't work, and all hell breaks loose. And spoiler warning, it's a pretty conclusive ending to this series. But they were able to make 3 more after this one. So that's my next choice, Beneath the Planet Apes. Oh, and the mutants would sing, like they had like this church, and they would sing "Amen, Amen, Amen" because they were worshiping the bomb. They had like a doomsday bomb.
Well, at least they're believing in something
Yeah, their god was this bomb
that destroyed civilization.
destroy the entire world, like the ultimate doomsday weapon. I mean, the 1970s was a pretty dark decade, and that's
Oh my God, man! There's some good ones in there, and honestly, Johnny, I knew you were going to choose that. I didn't bother to make a bet on that because I'm trying to get away from making bets. When you start winning too much, you know you're going to start losing. So nice pick. I'm going to go to a film that I really didn't want to like, but after watching the first time, I was like, "What? What happened?" And then, of course, the lead actor is Tom Cruise.
Oh, your favorite?
And no, he's not my favorite at all. But he is a very talented actor, and this particular genre, and the best apocalypse movies of all time, I would say this is probably one of the best science fiction apocalyptic doomsday movies. And it just happened to be the lead was Tom Cruise, and he was excellent in it. And it's called The Oblivion. 2013. Have you seen it?
I have, but honestly, Paul, I just don't remember it very well.
Well, let me refresh your mind.
With it, I think, as you are, which is fine.
Let me refresh your mind.
Different joke.
Yes, it is. And some work and some don't. Jack Harper, a drone repairman stationed on what he thinks is Earth that has been ravaged by war with extraterrestrials, questions his identity after rescuing a woman who keeps on coming into his dreams. In the year 2077, Jack Harper works as a security repairman on Earth. Left empty and devastated after a war with aliens, Jack has 2 weeks left before his mission ends, and he joins what he thinks are his fellow survivors on a faraway colony deep in space. However, Jack's concept of reality comes crashing down after he rescues a beautiful stranger from a downed spacecraft. The woman's arrival triggers a chain of events that culminates in Jack's nearly single-handed battle to save mankind.
Go, Jack, go.
Oblivion. Tom Cruise. Big budget. It's fantastic. It is absolutely... I couldn't stop it. Director Joseph Kosinski. It won a ton of awards. It made a ton of money. And it's really incredible. I love it. And there's there's a whole sub-story. Then there's a love story. Then there's a memory. And then there's shocks. And then you find out other things that you had no idea what was going on. And then the end was a mind twister. It was totally blew my mind.
Like
but 10 out of 10, masterpiece, science fiction, apocalyptic, end of the world. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. My next choice, going back a few decades, is 1953's War of the Worlds, based on the classic novel by H.G. Wells, produced by George Pal, starring Gene Barry and Anne Robinson. The setting was changed from Victorian-era England to 1953 Southern California. Earth is suddenly invaded by Martians, and American scientist Dr. Clayton Forrester searches for any weakness to stop them. It was also excellently remade in 2005, again with Tom Cruise, directed by Steven Spielberg. Again, the original War of the Worlds. Every time this movie was on TV, I had to watch it. And I actually have a VHS tape at home, and I still have a VCR. I pop it in every couple of years.
Nice.
And it really holds up. And I love how the heroes are just so desperately trying to save mankind from this unstoppable force, and there's just no way that they can win. And the ending is a bit of what's that Latin phrase, Deus ex machina? The God of the machine, like God kind of fixes everything.
Yeah, but, my Latin is superb, right?
That's the only Latin I know. I'm not trying to show off. But that movie really holds up, really astounding special effects. And I remember it actually played on a double feature with When Worlds Collide when we were kids. Both those movies were re-released in theaters after Star Wars. And I remember seeing it at the Coronet, that double bill. And I just thought, man, these movies really rock.
I used to love the Coronet, John.
Yeah, those are the days. Yeah, so that's my next choice. 1953's War of the Worlds. It's probably on YouTube. There's also a really fun TV series made in the 1990s. Back in the day with Jared Martin that was shot in Vancouver.
Yeah, and there's also your favorite actor, Tom Cruise, did War of the Worlds, which was a takeoff from a modern version, which was quite good.
It was.
Nice one. Good pick. I'm going to go back to Johnny because, this is not a game show, but we're friends and there's always a competitive nature with me, certainly. That's just who I am. It's how I'm wound. I'm much more of a mild, gentle 60-year-old version of the intensity that I've shared throughout this world. Often
you're well-rounded, Paul.
Okay, well, I'll take that, but I'm going to go old school. And this film really surprised me. And the ageless and very talented Don Johnson was the lead in this film. And Johnny and I, of course, met like literally 3 years before this film was actually brought out. And it's called A Boy and His Dog, 1975. And it is A Boy and His Dog is a 1975 American black comedy science fiction film directed by L.Q. Jones from a screenplay based on a 1960 a novel by Harlan Ellison. And I'll give you a little blurb. It is not one that a lot of people talk about. It's a classic, in my opinion. I've seen it probably 20 times in my life.
Mm.
Not recently though, because that's a long time ago. I was what, 9 years old, 10 years old or something. Vic, Don Johnson, who is incredible, and the ageless and talented Don Johnson is, um, I don't even know what this word's, libid, Libidi noose, libidinous.
Oh, that means he's horny.
Really?
Yeah. He's looking
No
for.
way.
Yeah.
Well, because he's alone in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. And he's only got his dog, so we won't go there. This is a family show. So, anyways, he is a, let's just say he's a horny, handsome loner with his dog in the middle of apocalypse. And he's 18 years old, and he's traversing through the post-apocalyptic desert of 2024. Interesting, eh? In the company of his telepathic dog, Blood. When the pair encounter an underground community, the leader's daughter, Quilla Holmes, Susan Benton, seduces Vic, of course, probably very easily seduces him, because he's
looks in his direction.
he's libidinous, and is, raging probably, and into their fold, separating him from his beloved dog Blood, who's left to survive on his own, which Blood will probably survive more than anybody else. But once Vic discovers he's been lured there solely for a mechanized procreation. Well, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he realizes he's doomed unless he can escape and rejoin Blood. It's just, honestly, old school, mid-70s, apocalyptic, low budget, but it works. It's a great film. And it just takes a little bit of freshness and uniqueness away from the darkness that I'm going to unfold on you with the remainder of my picks. Johnny.
Okay, here we go. Good choice. I think we talked about this movie before, so apologies in advance. My next choice is The World's End, 2013, directed by Edgar Wright and written by Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg, the third and final film in the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy after Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. The film focuses on five friends who return to their hometown for a pub crawl and uncover an alien invasion. This is a really fun film. The screenplay was written in 1995. It was originally called Crawl, about teenagers on a pub crawl. Deciding it was better suited as a comedic exploration of young adulthood and aging, he reworked the screenplay with Pegg, who plays Scotty in the Star Trek movies.
They're buddies.
Star Trek movies. And he was also the star of a really fun TV show called Spaced back in the day. And and the big fight in the bathroom where these guys, and they're not
so good.
They're not martial artists by any means.
No, they're total geeks.
They're regular guys. They're blue collar guys.
Yeah, like us.
The fight with the aliens, and the fight was actually choreographed by the Jackie Chan stunt team, and it's amazing. It's like one of my all-time favorite fight scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my next choice.
Well, I've seen this film at least 10 times, and I love it. It's really fun. And it brings a little bit of lightness and comedic touch to this dark genre that we're doing. And it's, if you haven't seen it and you want to laugh, it is hilarious. You remember the name of the pub?
I think it was called The World's End, wasn't it?
No.
No, I can't remember that.
That's okay. Anyways, great film. Good choice. We're under a minute scope here because I'm a little bit late driving all the way from, Silver Star Resort to get here. And we only have a 2-hour window, so I apologize, Johnny, but I'm here. Let's go.
We're good until 5.
Huh?
We're good until 5.
I know. Well, we got 30 minutes. We should be good. So the next one I'm going to go with is just an incredible film. And based on a screenplay was based on a P.D. James novel in 1992, The Children of Men. And The Children of Men is a 2006 dystopian action thriller directed and co-written by Alfonso Cuarón, based on the fellow I just mentioned. And when infertility threatens mankind with extinction, and the last child born has perished many years before, a disillusioned bureaucrat, Clive Owen, becomes the unlikely champion in the fight for the survival of Earth's population. He must face his own demons and protect the planet's last remaining hope from danger. This thing is, they won the Academy Award for Best Cinematography, amongst other things. Clive Owen's unbelievable in this, and Michael Caine plays just the perfect retired pot smoking professor. That this film, have you seen this, Children of Men?
No.
Oh my God, Johnny,
So.
do yourself. See some of these films, for the love of God, Johnny. We got to set you up with a thing at home. You've got to get Netflix or something. Do you have Netflix? You got to get Netflix. It's worth it. You can get it with commercials for $6.99.
Okay. All right.
Oh, no, that didn't sound very. Look, if Johnny was still an actor, he wouldn't get that audition. Let's put it that way. Who do you got next, Johnny?
Okay, I'm going to go with a movie that my mother took me and our mutual friend Eddie Romagnoli to in 1977. Damnation Alley, a post-apocalyptic film directed by Jack Smite, loosely based on the 1969 novel of the same name by Roger Zelensky. The music is by the legendary Jerry Goldsmith, and the stars are George Papard and my boy, Jan Michael Vincent, the actor whom I visualize in my mind's eye, plug, when I'm writing my Lee Hacklin mysteries. This movie has giant scorpions. It has an army of cockroaches. These characters are on their way. They have to go through Damnation Alley to find the one place in America that hasn't been radiated after a nuclear holocaust. Paul Winfield, Jackie Earle Haley, whom you may remember from the Bad News Bears.
Yep.
I mean, this is just a really exciting, action-packed movie. There's not really much of a social message. It's just about survival. And they're driving around in this kind of 70s futuristic RV with these huge wheels. And I love this movie. This movie came out the same year as Star Wars. You remember the sky? The sky was like affected by the radiation, and they had this like crazy color, like blue and red and, and orange, and it was very cool. A very amazing movie, and you can watch it on YouTube.
I saw it at the Stanley Theater, and it's blown my mind. Was it like 1976 or something?
Yeah, 77 according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, I remember it really well. All right, that's a great one. And you know, it's funny when I brought up my old school one with Don Johnson and his dog Blood. That's the other film I thought it came out the same time.
Right.
And I saw both of them in the theater. I mean, and so we're right on the same page, being at the same time when we met and everything. And I'm going to go a little bit dark now for a couple. Very dark, if I might add. And I think it's important sometimes for people to face their fears. And people that don't like horror genre, or people that don't like zombie genre, or people that don't like apocalyptic films, I understand why you might not like them. And because you're just fear-based and you're scared the heck out of all of them, because do you want to end up the demise of your life being feasted on by insatiable zombies? You know, do you want to end up as a prisoner and fed to some alien species that, you know, you're caviar?
Not a great way to go.
No. And honestly, there's a lot of terrible ways to go. And apocalyptic is a lot of people just like, look, if they drop the bomb, we're all going to go. It's nuclear war is going to be it's going to devastate the planet. But a lot of these movies.
Remember that old saying, the living will envy the dead?
Well, yes. And that is beautiful. Yeah. And was that, and also George Romero had a saying in his films too. But going back to the darkness, either one of these is super dark, but I'm going to go with the darker of the two, believe it or not. And this film is called The Divide. You ever heard about this?
No, never heard of it.
Oh my God, that's what I do. I come out with stuff that just people don't know. And it's really like, honestly, I'm going to watch it tonight. I'll watch the rest of it. I've seen it a couple of times, and first time blew my mind. It was so dark. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch that again. And then years later I did, because I wanted to see how I remembered things. And I did, and it was still dark, even darker. And then I'm going to watch it for, I think, the third time. It might be the last time. But 2011, I believe it's the director is Xavier Gens. It's a Canadian film,
Oh,
so
cool.
I wanted to bring in a Canadian, and it's really dark. A devastating nuclear attack thrusts 9 strangers together in a bunker-like basement in their New York apartment building. The survivors are trapped underground with no hope of rescue, only the solace that there 9 of them have safety and they have no idea what's going on. Only the horror on the other side of the door remains a mystery. As supplies dwindle and tempers flare, they become increasingly unhinged by the close quarters and hopelessness of their situation as it unfolds every single second of every single day. They decide to turn on one another. Typical human nature, eh?
Mm.
When the shit goes bad, eat your friend.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, come on. I mean, this is what the whole genre is about. It's just crazy. And still, one survivor, not a spoiler alert, just one survivor of the 9 holds on to a thin chance for escape, even though, unbeknownst to him, salvation is highly unlikely.
Cool.
Incredible film.
Sounds good.
The only director you'll know, or the actor in it, well, you might know a few, is Michael Biehn.
Oh, yeah, The Terminator. Kyle
Yep.
Reese.
Well, he's been in a lot of stuff,
Good actor.
and he's really good. So he plays the superintendent of a New York brownstone building, and he lives full time in the basement of the brownstone because that's his job full time. And he's a little strange, and but in his strangeness, he's also a survivor, and he's prepared and planned for what he thought would happen at some point in the future and is now happening.
Right.
The darkest apocalyptic film that I've seen. And The Divide, Canadian. Okay. And, if you can bear it and you can handle it, check it out. It'll challenge you.
Cool. Okay. My next choice is actually a miniseries from 1994, The Stand, based on the great Stephen King novel, which was published in 1978. I think I read this book when I was in high school back in the day. They had it at the kids' library. It's like 1,000 pages long, and there's even a longer version. And it's a weighty tome, to say the least.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and basically the first half is this plague, which they nickname Captain Trips. It's like a new bubonic plague that wipes out like 90% of the population, and the survivors have visions, and the survivors who are good have visions of a woman named Mother Abigail, and they go to see her and stay with her and start a new community. And the people who are not so good have visions of a man named Randall Flagg, who, for all intents and purposes, is the Antichrist of the story, and they flock to him. He lives in Las Vegas. And of course, inevitably, there's going to be a confrontation between the forces of good and evil. This is one of my all-time favorite novels, and the miniseries was great. One of the stars is Matt Frewer, Canadian, and also Molly Ringwald and Gary Sinise, Ray Walston, Ozzie Davis, Shani Smith, and 366 minutes long. Watched it back. It was remade recently. And I remember George Romero was supposed to do a feature version back. It was actually written on the back of the novel. Coming soon to the theater near you.
The deal was signed, but it just never happened.
Yeah, it never happened, unfortunately, which is too bad. It would have been great.
But, that would have been excellent, eh?
The Stand was directed by Mick Garris. Yeah, it's a shame that never got made. It's a real nice mix of genre. The first half is kind of like this apocalyptic science fiction story, and then it becomes essentially the Book of Revelations from the Bible, the final battle between good and evil. Absolutely worth reading, and the miniseries is also worth checking out on YouTube.
Yeah, it's fantastic book, fantastic series. Love it, Johnny. Good one.
And your friend Miguel Ferrer, whom we mentioned in the previous podcast, is in the miniseries.
He wasn't my friend. He was very successful, very talented, actor who happened to be in real life uh,
The
an
way that you described
a-hole.
it sounds like he was not that far away from some of the characters he played, because most of the characters he played were not particularly charismatic.
Well, which was easy for him to do.
Maybe
When
that's
you
why
have,
he's not so often as those roles.
yeah, I mean, but I will go to an actor who is exceptionally talented, Vito Morganson, who
Hmm.
has been a part of lots of different types of genres, science
Aragorn.
fiction. What's that?
Aragorn.
Well,
The king. The
obviously,
finger king.
that's what everyone remembers him. And, David Cronenberg, and
Oh, yeah.
this
Oh,
particular film is one of the darkest I've seen. It's called The Road, and it was made in 2009. The Road is a 2000. Well, it was actually written in 2006, post-apocalyptic novel by American writer Cormac McCarthy. The book basically details a grueling journey between father and son, and through months across a ravaged post-apocalyptic landscape in search of civilization. Of course, that's what everybody's always. They're trying to find like-minded people, and yet all of these like-minded people will eat you and kill you and take everything from you. And because who do you trust anymore, right? So that's why in apocalyptic films you get gunned up, you get supplied up, you get a horde, you get stashes, you get a place where you can sleep. There's all kinds of ways you can survive. America is a grim gray shadow of itself after a catastrophic catastrophe. Could that sound any worse than a catastrophic catastrophe? The end of civilization, the end of the world, doomsday as we know it. A man, Viggo Mortensen, and his young son, Kobe Smith McPhee, wander through this post-apocalyptic world trying to keep the dream of what they think civilization means alive. Their journey towards the sea, surviving as best as they can on what they can scavenge, as everybody else is doing the same, trying to avoid roving gangs of savage human beings, cannibals, who will turn them into slaves. No, they'll slave them and then eat them when they're desperate, or worse. And it's also Canadian, a Canadian film, 2009. The director is John Hillcoat. It captured it. Obviously, the book is incredible. It's very dark, very dark. Is the divide darker? Yeah, probably. But it's based on your interpretation. So if you're in the mood for darkness and the end of the world, it's really well written, and the movie is about as dark as the book, and really doesn't offer much hope for humanity in the future. If that's something you're interested in.
there we go. If you need your spirits lifted. Okay, I have one more on my list, and then I think I'm done. We're coming up on 49 minutes now.
Okay.
My last choice is 2012, directed by the legendary master of disaster, Roland Emmerich, who seems to thrive on scenes of CG destruction. John Cusack, Oliver Platt, uh, Danny Glover, and Woody Harrelson. I remember back in 2012, people have been predicting the end of the world ever since I was a kid. That's why I just don't really pay too much attention to that stuff. There's a lot of skies, Chicken Little skies falling.
Yeah.
Its plot follows novelist Jackson Curtis, played by John Cusack, and
Johnny, it could still happen, eh?
it could still happen. Well, fingers crossed. Hopefully, we'll have at least one more day, so I can have my beer tonight, and so I can sing at least a couple of songs of karaoke. Adrian Helmsley, played by, I won't even try to pronounce this actor's name, Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Oh yeah, he's a good actor.
He's
Yeah.
a great actor. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, sir.
No, it doesn't. Nobody can say it, so it was a good attempt.
Too many consonants. As they struggle to survive a sequence of events including earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and not just tsunamis, mega tsunamis. I always thought tsunamis were already pretty mega. And for a cherry on top, a global flood. This is a really exciting, thrilling, unapologetically apocalyptic movie about survival. And I mean, John Cusack is always intensely likable. You ever see Say Anything?
Yeah.
That's another one of my favorites by
Yeah,
Cameron Crowe. So
he's
that's
a
my
great
last.
actor. He's a great actor, and I love that film.
And Gross Point Blank is another classic.
Yeah, he's made a lot of movies that are good. He's just really good.
So that's my last pick for Doomsday Apocalyptic End of the World flicks.
Well, it's 444. When three numbers of 444 come together, it's usually about angels surrounding you and protecting you. It's usually good.
Oh,
good news.
Okay.
It certainly is for me. And the next film is again very dark, End of the World, and really incredibly well. I think I actually might have brought it up in the zombie genre, but I just have to bring it up again because it's French, and I've got two more. I've got this one and a comedy.
Okay.
If you can believe a comedy apocalyptic film. This film is I've seen this film at least a dozen times, maybe more. It's called Les Hordes, The Horde. French. Les Hordes is a 2009 French horror film co-written and directed by Yannick Dahan and Benjamin Rohier, starring a bunch of French stars. A lot of people wouldn't know, so I'm not even going to bother, but they're really good. The acting's excellent. This is a great film. It's solid 9 out of 10. It's the end of the world. We don't know why. And there's a bunch of drug dealers and gangsters holed up in a building that's been abandoned. And there's like eight people, 8 different apartments, still people living in it. And they run the building. And that's how they deal their drugs and everything. Well, as it turns out, unbeknownst to the drug dealers and everybody else that's still alive in this building because they need a place to live, and the world is decaying as it has for quite some time, there's a huge nuclear bomb that goes off in Paris, I guess, and they're in the outskirts. And it's a viral. It's like a nuclear holocaust, but it's also a zombie viral thing. So you get bitten by one of these viral people, you turn into one of them, and they just want to eat you, right? And everybody wants to eat everybody, and which is kind of what survival's about, because there's not going to be superstores, there's not going to be Costco, right? I mean, those places are going to get raided all together, and then people will take them over and then kill people when their food goes down, and then just do big barbecue, a big barbecue for everyone. But the horde is also the plot is essentially a gang in a high-rise flat is busted by undercover police. When the gang kill one of their cops, the cops just go ballistic. And Q, end of the world, hundreds of zombies, weapons, mass destruction. It is the perfect epitome of all the things I like about horror, violence, end of the world, zombies, and the direction, the cinematography, the writing, the acting, and the sheer violence. I mean, after watching it like 12 times, I did a count at how many people died in the film. I think I was at 300 plus. It was just an absolute masterpiece of destruction. Wow. Yeah, it's really great. And I love European films. And the next one I want to go to, though, and this will be the last one because we've got 13 minutes, if my clock is right.
Yep. 4:48.
Yeah. This one I really like, and I just got to find it. I had my thing and I pressed the wrong button. And that's what happens when you get caught up in the whole thing. Okay, best apocalypse. Here we go. No, I'll get it. I just it just happens sometimes. I get caught up in this thing, and it's like, and then you're saying I don't have any more, and I thought you'd have at least another one.
No, I'm done. We're almost at an hour.
I know. Well, we get this one in quick because it's comedy. And how many times do you see a comedy about the end of the world, right?
Okay, while you're looking,
yeah.
I do have one more on my list. I was going to save it.
Help me out, brother. Help me out.
While you're doing your thing,
I got it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll talk about End of Days, 1999, directed by Peter Hyams, written by Andrew Marlowe. Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Gabriel Byrne, again playing the Antichrist, an impossibly beautiful Robin Tunney, and Kevin Pollak, who's always hilarious.
Yeah.
Um, Schwarzenegger plays New York Police Department Detective Jericho Kane, who's an alcoholic, a very fit alcoholic, who, after he saves a banker from an assassin, finds himself embroiled in a religious conflict and must protect an innocent young woman, played by Robin Tunney, who's chosen by evil forces to conceive the Antichrist with Satan.
Wow.
This is kind of a different movie for Schwarzenegger. He actually cries in this one. He tries to expand his acting range a little bit. I saw it in the theater back in the day. I don't really remember much about it other than I thought it was pretty fun. And Gabriel
Yeah.
Byrne, awesome. He's a great Satan or son of Satan or Antichrist or all of the above.
Personally, I didn't think Schwarzenegger was, but he actually is a gentle soul. I like him, and he's like Stallone. They just got better as they age, you know?
Yeah.
The next one's a comedy, and, to do a comedy, to have the balls to do a comedy, these are the guys that do it, right? I mean, when you think about Seth Rogen, one of the most famous Canadian actors and writers working in Hollywood these days, he's a chronic pot smoker. He literally smokes 30 joints a day because he needs it, like coffee. And he drinks coffee with it. And he actually has his own pot company, and he makes ashtrays, pot ashtrays, and all kinds of paraphernalia. He's very successful. His buddy and partner in crime is James Franco. Also, Jonah Hill, Danny McBride, Michael Cera, Jay Bercaro. And essentially, it's the film is called This Is the End. And it's a bunch of Hollywood. They all play themselves.
Oh.
And they're at a party at New Year's at one of their mansions in Beverly Hills. And they're all just getting lit and getting high and getting drunk. And all of a sudden the world's ending and they just don't believe it. And it's a comedy. And it's absolutely hilarious. In Hollywood, actor James Franco is throwing a party with a slew of celebrity pals. Among them, in attendance, are his buddies Jonah Hill, Seth Rogen, Jay Baruchel, Danny McBride, and Craig Robinson. Suddenly, out of nowhere, an apocalypse of biblical proportions erupts and unfolds, causing untold carnage among Tinseltown's elite and trapping Franco's party in his home, which is a good thing because he's got everything he needs to survive the apocalypse short term until they start eating each other after all the weed's gone and they get the munchies. As the world they know disintegrates outside, cabin fever and dwindling supplies, as they always do, threaten to tear the six friends apart in more ways than one. You want to see a comedy about the apocalypse? This is funny. And if you're someone from Canada and other countries that allow imbibing, I'd highly recommend that you call up any of the actors in this film and ask them for some of what they're smoking, because whatever it is, it's working, and everybody's just absolutely, and they're playing themselves. It's hilarious. It's such a good film, and just to end off this show with a positive note with comedy in the apocalypse, I thought that was a fitting ending. Yeah, thank you.
Terrific. Okay, I'm
Yes.
done. That's my list.
Well, before Johnny gets kicked out of the Vancouver Library, I'm in Kelowna. My name is Paul Bale. I'm the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show. Johnny and I have been doing this. This is our 29th episode. We've been doing this for the better part of going on 8 months now.
Holy
and we're
moly.
very happy to do it. Johnny, I just want to say thank you again for your continued support and your talent and the patience.
I got the 10-minute warning sign.
10 minutes. Perfect.
Yeah.
So do you have a pun? Do you have a book?
I have a book. I just started this today. I don't know if I'm going to finish it. It's called The Last Ship. And I picked this one because it fits in with our apocalyptic setting. The author's name is William Brinkley. And it's basically about a nuclear war. And there's one American destroyer that's left. And it's basically about their efforts for survival. Do you have a book, sir?
I do. Mine's not a survival book, but I just found a book that that were left in the house from old tenants, and I looked into this, and this is a #1 international bestseller. This is called The New Harry Hole Thriller. Honestly, when I heard the title, I was like, oh wow, there's an open book, quite literally, and it's called Knife. and he's apparently sold 45 million books worldwide. His name is Joe Nesbro. That's going backward because I've got the camera on backwards. But he's Scandinavian, and I like a good romp like this sometimes, you know. I'm just waiting for spring when I go down the beach and kill this in about 3 hours.
Harry Hole would be a tough name to grow up with, I feel.
Right? Oh, my God. What I'm wondering is what his middle name might be.
What were his parents thinking?
Well, exactly. Like, how do you do that? Cool. You know, there was some Korean actor, and his name was like Long Hung Cho or so. I don't know. It sounded like a Korean porn star name. It was like, are you kidding me? How could you do that to your own child?
Oh, well, different culture.
Anyways, Johnny, before you get kicked out, you got the thing. Thanks very much. Everybody, thank you for joining the Canadian Bro Show, all things Canadian with Pauly and Johnny. I just want to put up our subscribe because, you know, let's face it, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get subscribers. We're trying to get people to come back to our show. We've had about 7% interest in growth in the last 7-8 months, which has been great. And we want to continue that. And if you enjoy this content, Johnny and I, we do like Canadian pop culture. This is one of the segments that we really like to enjoy. We're both film buffs. And we always try to focus on Canadian talent and Canadian subject and all things Canadian. That's exactly what it's talking about. That's the first iteration. The second iteration is the Canadian Bro Show, all basketball from the Hoop Junkies, Pauly and Raleigh. Because for those that don't already know, which has been quite obvious over the 50 videos that I put out in the last 8 months, I'm a hoop junkie. I love basketball. As you can tell from the background, I'm a 60-year-old hoop junkie. And I don't feel 60. I don't look 60. And I hope that happens for a very long time. That is my real hair. I still have hair. It's dark. I don't color it.
Accumulating hair, whereas most people are.
I'm growing it. Yeah, it's just, I don't know what it is, man. I'm blessed by Icelandic and Irish and British genes, I guess. And having the right mother, because her vessel has done well by me. Let's just say that. In the meantime, if you enjoy this content, please subscribe. There's on the bottom right-hand corner of our videos, there's a subscribe button. You just roll your mouse over and you hit it, subscribe. You can like, you can comment, you can share, you can hit the notification bell and let us know that you really enjoy the content. We really appreciate your valued time. In the meantime, on behalf of Johnny and Pauly, you know, episode 29, we'll have this up in the next day or so. Yeah, and I've got a couple ideas for the next one, Johnny. We'll talk about it before you get kicked out. But thanks for joining us, and peace and love. Peace and love to everyone. And I will be signing out very shortly. I'm going to end the broadcast and say thanks again. We'll look forward to see you, Johnny, and look forward to see you in episode 30 coming sooner than later.
I do have a pun, Paul.
Oh, my God. Do you have time for a pun? Let's go.
Here we go. Here we go. Puns about paper are terrible. Thank you.
Holy crap. That is the worst one yet. Unbelievable. Terrible. Listen, I you know, I'm sorry, but we're finishing a really great show with that. But, you know, sometimes it's hit and miss, these puns.
On a high note.
On a high note. Oh, God. Anyways, thanks very much, everyone. We're going to close off. Peace, love, and happiness.
See you.
See you.